Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Daincast. This time, we've got a pretty exciting game here. We've got a game from Magnath playing his Zerg, which we all know Magnath is a kind of infamous cannon rusher from Platinum Heroes. He's a friend of the Drunken Outlaws, and he's capable of multiple styles, but he's obviously mostly known for playing Protoss. And he's done some really aggressive and wonky cannon rushes, but this time he's playing his off race. He's playing some Zerg. And he's not playing against some gold level or some low level Zerg. He's playing against a 4.7k Master League Zerg known as Cheoklate. And he's going to play ZvZ against him. This is a notoriously difficult matchup. It's been compared to a knife fight in a phone booth. And this is going to be him playing his off race as well. So this is going to be not an easy task for Magnath. I'm not really sure what the context of this was. But he sent me this replay as something he was happy with, so we'll have to see what he does. I mean, I expect some level of cheese in this game, but he is going for a fairly early expansion, so it's not going to be anything really, really early. It's not going to be any kind of really early pool baneling shenanigans. It's going to be something a little bit more stable, as both players are going for a pretty normal expansion first. A spawning pool and gas are coming down for Cheoklate, and a spawning pool and gas are coming down for Magnath as well. These builds nearly mirroring each other, with their overlords passing in the middle nearly symmetrically. This is actually really beautiful. Look at the spread on these overlords. They're perfectly in sync with one another, exactly mirroring each other's movements. So, you know, it's just kind of satisfying. Honestly, ZvZ guys, this is what I know about ZvZ. You've got Zerglings and Banelings. You try to split off your Zerglings to attack Banelings one at a time, so that only one Baneling goes off on one Zergling, and someone will be more greedy, and they will either get away with it or they will die, and they will be able to get to roaches. Sometimes someone will go Mutalisks, and there's all kinds of other... There's actually a lot of variety in builds that you can do in ZvZ. But the reasons and rules to why those builds work and what scenarios and what triggers you would use are something that I think even the highest Zerg players don't always fully comprehend. I know there's just so many layers to this matchup because it's so fast. The decision making is so subtle that it becomes really a more complicated game than you might otherwise think. Yes, it's like a knife fight in the phone booth in the sense that anything can go wrong at any minute, but also you have to be pausing and reading what your opponent is doing. So it's almost like a turn-based knife fight in a phone booth. You really need to get a read on what they're doing. You really need to know how you're going to get away with any kind of greed. So a pretty fast third base from Magnath is going to go down. Looks like he's just idling this Overlord here, and no such third base is coming down for Cheoklate. Looks like he's going to be a little bit more aggressive here with a fairly quick layer. So no such layer from Magnath just yet. It's going to be a more economic play from Magnath and a more tech-based play from Cheoklate, especially considering he is staying on one gas here and getting a Roach Warren. So it potentially could be a very early Nidus Worm with roaches coming out of it in Magnath's base. A few Overlords out on the map for Cheoklate, which will allow him to do his Nidus Worm if he does decide to go for that. I mean, I'm just assuming it's going to be a Nidus Worm. I don't actually know. But he's got double Evolution Chamber, so maybe it could just be a timing attack, especially now that he's taking his second and third gases here. He might just be stabilizing into a two-base attack, two-base timing push here with +1/+1. So you never really know. A Baneling Nest coming down for Magnath, making sure he's going to be safe against any kind of Zergling shenanigans, but there aren't going to be any Zergling shenanigans for Cheoklate. If anything, Magnath's Zerglings will be the ones engaging in the shenanigans. They do pick off the small amount of Zerglings at the third base for Cheoklate, so really not the best situation there for him. A little bit of misattention there, leaving those in a vulnerable position, getting surrounded by Magnath. Magnath's got quite a few Zerglings out roaming out on the map. They're not going to be able to get in here just yet. He might be able to Baneling bust him, actually, but a Spine Crawler is being forced out. And this is a little bit awkward now for Cheoklate. He's canceled his +1/+1 upgrade. I think he was pretending to do a timing attack, but he's actually going for a Spire here with only 3 gases. I'm not really sure how great this is going to be. He is going to be able to hold this front wall here if he transfuses, but he actually doesn't have any transfuse energy, and these Zerglings might actually get in and do some damage here, and they're going to scout the Spire. This is obviously not what he wanted for Cheoklate. This is a little bit awkward. This is what I mean about the read there. Cheoklate going for some misinformation here, making Zerglings of his own, but he's actually lost quite a few workers, and Magnath has gotten away with his 3 bases here. He's up to 46 workers to the only 33 of Cheoklate, and Chocolate's plans have been given up here. So Magnath is going to be in a good position to defend this as long as he is paying attention and scouted that spire. I mean, how could he not, right? There's a small building in the back that's kind of sneakily placed there. He must know about this, but he's also got to know about the timing of it. You don't want to build the spores too quickly. It looks like he is going to build a spore just about now, which is going to be a little bit early, but definitely will be in time for those Mutalisks. Meanwhile, he's going to go for a Roach Warren and a double evolution chamber of his own. Big Zergling counterattack coming in from Cheoklate, realizing that he's actually got the Zergling advantage here, getting quite a few drone kills here, evening up the drone count, 41 to 41 here, and counting for Cheoklate. So this is obviously not what Magnath wanted. You can see the decision making here being a little bit better for Cheoklate, realizing with whatever he's got, he's able to do a little bit of damage. Magnath focusing on the spores, the Muta defense, but not really focusing on the Zergling defense at this stage. Does have a few Zerglings of his own, but he's already lost 15 workers. This is a devastating loss for Magnath, and even the escape with the remaining Zerglings for Cheoklate, he's not going to be able to stay and do any more damage. Looks like Magnath's trying to tech up himself, but he still doesn't have a lair, and he's getting double gas at his natural, which aren't being saturated. So a little bit of hesitation from Magnath. It's going to put him in a little bit of an awkward position here. He is getting a Spore Crawler, but the Spore Crawler's not finished. He's only got a single queen here, and he's going to lose even more drones here for his troubles. The Spore coming out, though, is going to be helpful. It's going to get a few hits off, and obviously Spore's doing a lot of damage against these Mutalisks, but this queen is being transfused. It's going to maybe get a few kills on these Mutalisks. One or two do go down, and actually another one goes down. So Magnath is more or less successfully defending this with just queens. He is building an extra Spore just in case, but he's down in workers, and now Cheoklate's taken the third base of his own, and he has the tech advantage given that there's no lair from Magnath just yet. Magnath sticking on relatively low tech, but he wants to get that worker count up, but this is looking pretty rough for him. He's down in tech, he's down in arm. Well, he's not down in army. He's got a bigger army, technically. He's got a fair amount of roaches and zerglings, so he could do some kind of counterattack here, but I'm not really sure how he's going to manage that, because as soon as he moves out on the map, his army are going to get intercepted by the air force of Cheoklate. Cheoklate having the superior map control now, and he's going to start killing the overlords all over the place to deny any kind of vision or scouting from Magnath. So Magnath has a lot of trouble ahead of him. He needs to figure out how he's going to get back into this game. He's starting with making lots of drones, which is a good start. He's defending. He's successfully stabilizing on his third base here, and he's getting a layer of his own, and he's probably going to saturate the gases pretty soon. Yes, he has as well. So this is all the things Magnath needs to be doing, but obviously the opener going better for Cheoklate in the end. Now that the beginning stages of the game are over and we're in the mid game, it's looking much stronger for Cheoklate at this stage. He's got the tech advantage. And he's got the economic advantage as well, going up to 65 drones on 4 bases to the only 52 of Magnath. Magnath has a fair amount of roaches, but what are these roaches going to do in the end of this game, right? He's getting his upgrades for them, but these roaches aren't going to be great as soon as they start moving out on the map. They're good defensively against Zerglings, but they're going to need some Hydralisk support as well. But I really like the high queen count from Yosemite Spam. He's just making so many queens to defend against these mutas, filling that stopgap measure, letting him make more drones than he otherwise would be able to without immediately going up to Hydralisks. So he's being larva efficient here by making these queens as his anti-air as well. And as a result, these mutas actually aren't doing a whole lot. And looks like Cheoklate is not going to transition off of these Mutalisks either. He's going to try and just completely snowball this game with mass Mutalisk, and now Magnath himself is moving out with queens and roaches into the middle of the map. This is the kind of build that you might see against a Protoss player, but with this many queens and this many transfuses, these roaches are going to be very difficult to deal with, especially with only a handful of Zerglings for Magnath, and or for Cheoklate, I should say, and the mutas are just going to realize this is a great opportunity to do some damage in the main base. There's only a single spore there. They're going to do a lot of damage on this drone line. This is kind of a foregone conclusion for Magnath at this stage. He needs to focus on his attack of his own. So even though his units are being attacked by these Mutalisks, they're going to get intercepted by these queens, and quite a few of them go down. 2 Mutalisks go down before anything happens, and suddenly, with these queens barreling down the front door of Cheoklate, this is looking really, really bad for him. He does have that Mutalisk advantage, but with these queens joining up, this is actually really difficult. The mutas are whittling away at these roaches, but the queens are joining, and once they are here, they're going to be able to transfuse these roaches and absolutely mutilate these Mutalisks. And it's looking really, really strong for Magnath. He's got 90 army supply to the 67 of Cheoklate, but I don't think Cheoklate counted on him counterattacking with these queens. I don't think he realized that this was a possibility. He's committing with absolutely everything, but so many transfuses coming out for Magnath. These queens are just not dying, and he's still got quite a few roaches alive. The Zergling's not able to really do the damage they need to with so many roaches, and the Mutalisks are almost all dead. The queens are alive, and the roaches are going to hit the third. This is an absolute devastating attack from Magnath. He's got now 81 army supply to the 37 of his opponent. This is not even a tricky game here. It's just a straight up attack from Magnath with so many queens. Really nice usage of the transfuse as well. And the third base of Cheoklate is going to go down. He's going to evacuate to his fourth base, but Magnath is no slouch. He realizes that this is a possibility. He's going to send his roaches straight there. He's going to send a small contingent of them to attack that while barreling down on the front here. The upgrade is finishing for melee, but he doesn't have any melee units to take advantage of it, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. And there's no Mutalisks left. Maybe a few floating around, but he doesn't have that flock of Mutalisks that he'd like to have. And now this base is even getting, well, actually he defends the fourth base, but now Magnath is just going to commit to the main base here, and as soon as his queens join up, he's going to be able to continue this attack and keep things looking very scary. The front line of roaches is getting very, very low, but the Mutalisks are going to need to overwhelm these queens, but with these transfuses, I don't know if it's going to happen. Now the roaches can split off and do the extra damage. The Mutants look like they are going to clean up these queens, but now they have to deal with this massive amount of roaches being rallied from Magnath's side of the map, and so many drones have gone down. Only 2 mining bases now for Cheoklate. It's going to be difficult. The longer this goes on, as long as Magnath continues to do damage, he's going to be in a great position, because as he rallies these roaches, they take so long for the Mutas to kill. There's even roaches in the main base killing workers. He's down to 33 workers, and an extra roach going into the fourth base, and another base comes down from Cheoklate. He's trying to stabilize here to get that economic advantage back in. He is going to eventually clean up all these roaches, but now Magnath has 50 armies, or 50 workers to the 25 of his opponent. A little counterattack kills a worker, but Magnath is stabilized on 4 bases with 47 workers to the only 30 of his opponent. Cheoklate's still sticking on this massive Muta style, but now Magnath is transitioning into Hydralisks, and Hydralisks are going to be able to hold their own against these Mutas much better than these Queens, I think, with their higher DPS, with the upgrades. They're going to scale really well. But the good thing for Cheoklate is that he has double expanded during this, so he's retaken his 3rd base and he's taken a 5th base as well. So as long as he manages to stabilize, he has done a fair amount of damage to Magnath's drone lines as well. But with all these spores in Magnath's main base, he's actually going to be able to whittle these Mutalisks numbers down. The Mutalisks are able to just click on these one at a time though, and this is looking pretty scary here for Magnath here. He doesn't have that critical mass of Hydralisks that he needs, and I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult. So the map control is going to stay in Cheoklate's favor, and he is going to drone up here, but he's down so many workers. He does have +2/+2, but Magnath is trying frantically to drone up here and make a critical mass of Hydralisks, get his upgrades for them, and then do yet another push. But with all of these bases for Cheoklate, it might give him another chance to get back in this game. Things were looking really bad for Cheoklate, but with his decision-making, he's managed to keep himself in the game by expanding, really cool under pressure there, showing his absolute class as a player. Continues to harass and gets these transferring drones for his trouble, and now things are looking a lot better for him. He's managed to equalize the drone count. He's on an extra base to Magnath. Magnath is taking another base on this side of the map, though, which might be a little bit too far considering how easy it would be for the Mutalisks to come in and swoop and kill that. But it is up to Magnath to defend that. He doesn't have any creep connected to that base as well, so I think this might be a better base for him to take, but maybe he's hoping that this just won't get scouted from his opponent. A little bit of his Zergling counterattack coming in to Magnath's base here. He doesn't have any spines here to deal with this. Actually, he does have a single spine, which is going to help, but with the focus on the drones, this isn't going to be a problem for him at all. He's going to kill a few workers here. He's going to eventually focus down the spine, but actually doesn't get as much damage as you might think. Does put Magnath down to 57 workers. So now the economic advantage is just in favor of Cheoklate, just by a little bit, but obviously things have just kind of stabilized here. The big thing for Magnath is that he's been delaying upgrades during all this. I think he was really focusing on defending and being aggressive, so he neglected getting his 2-2 started. So a nice upgrade advantage for Cheoklate at this stage, and along with the map control of these Mutalisks, things are looking pretty good for him. He's managing to do a little bit of harass, gets a queen, but flies the Mutalisks over top of all the Hydras and losing quite a few of them for his troubles. And Magnath's army is still looking really scary. With this critical mass of Hydralisks, I don't see any Banelings or Roaches for our other Zerg player. So once Magnath decides to push with these Hydralisks, if he has 2-2 as well, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing for Cheoklate to deal with here. And the Hydra speed upgrade is just about finished, which will give Magnath the ability to push across the map without getting completely caught out of position. A little bit more harassment from these mutas, but there's so many spores here. Every time he engages these spores, he loses 1 or 2 mutalisks. Actually loses 2 or 3 or 4. Oh my god, he's losing so many mutalisks. I'm not sure why he's committing so hard to killing these spores. He's just wasting away all these armies. A bunch of banelings do go into this base, but Magnath is going to pull these drones and not lose just about anything, and he would have liked to have these banelings to actually defend against these Hydras. He needs to deal with this army, and now Magnath is looking like he's in a pretty good position, even though he's at an economic disadvantage. His upgrades are about to finish, and he's got double the army supply of his opponent, and his opponent is just throwing away mutalisks and banelings for trying to get economic damage, but really not getting much of anything done with them, just trading them for spores. And Magnath can keep building spores all day if he wants. They only cost minerals, so it's not going to be that big of a deal for him. Obviously, he wants to create opportunities to continue doing the damage, and now that he's pushed far enough into this, it's finally going to create an opportunity for him to kill yet more workers. And as long as he doesn't die to Magnath's counterattack when he gets 2-2, he should be okay, but I don't know how he's going to do that. Magnath's army, once he does pushes with 2-2, is going to be absolutely terrifying. He's even adding a Lurker Den and 11 more roaches against this, and all that Cheoklate has to deal with this is a handful of mutalisks. I don't know. He does have some more banelings. I think they have baneling speed as well, and +2, so they shouldn't be too bad, but I think he's just going to keep sending these banelings into the mineral line, so he's not worried about defending whatsoever. He's focusing all his resources on attacking, and some of these are actually going to get caught out by Magnath's army, and looks like Magnath is going to push now with his 2-2, and this ball of Zerg is looking terrifying. Quite a few workers going down, nearly double the worker supply for Cheoklate, but the army supply tells a different story, and Magnath's army is nothing to be scoffed at. Catches a few mutalisks out in the map, and now Magnath has a death ball ready to move out. He's got lots of spores in his main base to protect him against these mutas, and the more the mutas fight these spores, the worse it's going to be for him. Loses quite a few again. So many mutas going down every single time, and this attack from Magnath, nice little splits from his army, doesn't lose too much to the baneling attack, and he's going to get this base basically for free. The mutas are going to come back and try and defend this, but he's focused so much on attacking, he hasn't really thought much about defending. He doesn't have the army for it, frantically making more banelings. But these banelings are not going to get the connections. These roaches are here to buffer for them. Nice splits and army control from Magnath have meant that this is going to be really difficult for these banelings to get the connections that they need. Nice little splits from Magnath. Focuses on the micro, gets a few of them. Does manage to get quite a few good baneling hits there, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. These Hydras are doing absolutely so much damage to these mutalisks. And with the roaches buffering for them, this should be pretty decent for them as well. The roaches are now attacking the natural expansion of our Zerg player. A few roaches attacking at the close by air third base as well. And the roaches are going to be able to focus down the spire. This is going to stop Cheoklate from being able to make any more mutas, which are his main power unit in this game. I mean, obviously, banelings are nice, but the roaches are the problem as well. And unless he has a mix of units, he's not really going to be able to deal with this. He is still mining peacefully from this 6th base and this 5th base, so this is his saving grace here. But Magnath is mining all over the map. Magnath has taken his entire side of the map, and he's going to be able to throw units at him. He's equalized the worker count, and actually, Magnath is ahead in supply now in both army and workers, so now things are looking really good for him. These mutas frantically trying to clean up the split out army of Magnath, but Magnath is going to consolidate his army now, realizing he's got a pretty decent advantage. Cheoklate taking a 7th base now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th base now. So I really like this from Cheoklate, just calmly retaking bases while he's being attacked, knowing that he's eventually going to clean everything up if he controls his army right, and he knows that he needs to maintain that economic momentum. But I don't know if this is ever actually going to get off the ground. I don't think Magnath really realizes how many bases he has on this side of the map, or maybe he doesn't care, but every time these mutas commit to these spores, especially killing a spine here while they're getting attacked by spores, is definitely not going to be a great trade for these mutas. He doesn't have that critical mass of mutas that he would like, and now he's down to 31 army supply to the 50 of Magnath, and Magnath is looking to bully him out of this game. He's stabilizing quite a few bases. This Zergling is doing absolute work here. How many kills does he have, actually? He's got 4 kills on his own. What a little tryo that Zergling is. I really appreciate his effort. I really like that both of these players are good at just sending small amounts of units to all the bases of their opponent to maximize the amount of multitasking and damage that they do. Even one roach in a mineral line, if you leave it for a good 10 seconds, is going to do a lot of economic damage. And Magnath has just about cleaned up these Mutalisks at this stage, and things are looking pretty rough for him now. Magnath is up to 127 supply to the only 103 of his opponent. He's got more workers, he's got more army, and he's got better upgrades. Things are looking really good for him, but a big Zergling counterattack coming in Magnath's base. This is basically undefended here. Magnath has nothing in position to defend this. Would like to see lots more spines here to defend this, but I don't know if Magnath actually cares about this, because if he goes for an attack of his own, he should be able to equalize the damage as well. But looks like he's going to focus on defending. Doesn't want to lose this hatchery, but these Zerglings can just psych out once they attack. I'm not really sure why they would even try to commit to that. Magnath needs to rebuild lots of static defenses here. Definitely a little bit of indecision from Magnath deciding whether or not to defend that base or attack. I think it would have been better for him to just attack maybe and rally his units to his 4th base, but in the end, he is going to be able to keep this base alive, re-drone it up. He's back up to 72 workers now. He's going to build a few spines, realizing this is an obvious candidate for counterattacks. This is going to be his Achilles heel every time he tries to move out. He's just going to leave a group of Hydralisks here, realizing he has so much army. He's able to both leave army behind and attack with a small number of units himself. And this is going to be a little bit difficult to deal with. Once Cheoklate engages everything with his ball of army, he's got Ultralisks and Banelings now, closing the distance onto the split off army from Magnath, and actually getting a really nice trade here. So these Ultras now are going to equalize this game. The army supply looking a lot better for Cheoklate now that he's made these Ultralisks. They've got great upgrades, and they are going to barrel down, and there's not really a whole lot for Magnath to deal with. These obviously roaches are okay, but if the Ultras close the distance, things can be really, really difficult here. And there's so many Banelings to engage with the Hydralisks as well. Magnath having a little bit of trouble deciding what he wants to do here. Looked like he's going to lose his natural, so finally he's on the defensive with his natural here, and Cheoklate's doing quite a lot of damage, and there's nothing on his side of the map from Magnath to do any equalizing damage, losing so much of these Zergling counterattacks here. What's Magnath going to do? He looks like he's going to go for lurkers instead. Nice little tech choice there, but they might be a little bit late here. He's got a small group of roaches in the main base. And they are walled off in the mineral line here, which will make things a little bit better for him, but there's so much Zergling and Ultralisk here. This is looking absolutely terrifying for him. Magnath does have a small group of roaches intercepting the reinforcements here, and they're going to get a nice attack on these Banelings here, losing almost nothing for quite a lot of Baneling supply. So nice little attack from Magnath there, cleaning things up quite a lot. And Magnath actually has an army advantage here, but we'll have to see if he's able to get a good trade against these Ultras. He's trapped Cheoklate in his base, and now he's burrowed with so many Ultras, and there's no Overseer from Cheoklate here, and these Ultras are going to get shredded by these lurkers. And the last Ultralisk in his main base is actually going to go down here. I think before it's even going to get this, a little bit of indecision there. Gets a few swipes on it, but doesn't get the lurker den in the end. And all of the Ultras are now down for Cheoklate, and Magnath has stabilized on 67 army supply. He's got a better economy. He's got more army, and now he's got lurker tech, which is going to counter just about everything that his opponent has. I don't think Cheoklate was planning on his opponent going for lurkers, and this is going to be really difficult for him to deal with once the attack comes out. A few Ultras go into the 5th base of Magnath, and his lurkers are out of position, so there's going to be a lot of damage done here. Magnath frantically trying to bring his army across the map to intercept this, but again, his army is out of position, so he's going to lose absolutely everything, going down to 42 workers here. Nice counterattack from Cheoklate, realizing he can do this, and then get the damage done and then get out. So he's going to escape, but not before he loses an Ultralisk or 2 here. Does he lose 2? Okay, he loses 1 Ultralisk, manages to escape the other one with his life, and he's managed to keep these bases mining the whole time. Would like to get his gas on this base, but I think that might be the least of his concerns right now, considering how mineral starved he is. He's been making lots of gas heavy units. And lots of Zerglings all game, so he has actually a decent amount of gas. He just needs more minerals to spend here, but Magnath is barreling down his front door here with the Ultralisks, and there are Overseers for Cheoklate, but he doesn't have the critical mass of units he needs to engage this, let alone deal with the lurkers. So the lurkers are just going to burrow their way up. They're going to leapfrog up and getting a few snipes on these Overseers. Cheoklate GG's, and the victory goes to Magnath.